Anthony Albanese faced a tough, nearly 40-minute interview today with the king of breakfast radio, Ben Fordham, over The Voice to Parliament. Support, as you know, for The Voice has been crashing over the past few months. The PM, he isn't used to interviews like this. He usually only chats with journalists he knows aren't going to give him a tough time. This is how that interview went down.
Well, get on board, Ben.
Guess what?
Guess what? You're in a position to make a difference and to help it succeed, as are other people in the media, by talking about what it's about, not by raising things that are not going to be relevant. What Thomas Mayo or any individual thinks.
I've got a duty to listen to Jacinta Price just as much as I've got a duty to listen to Anthony Albanese.
I've got no problem with that at all.
And Ben Fordham joins me here now.
Sharri,
Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I think the thing is that everyone is saying there's not enough detail. That's why the polls are showing that less than half of Australians support The Voice. And they feel that journos never ask tough questions. And today, for nearly 40 minutes, you grilled the PM.
Yeah, I interviewed Anthony Albanese in mid-January. I think it was about January 18.
6 months ago.
Yeah, that was an interview that Peter Dutton later described that day as a train wreck, because it was one where I just asked him simple questions. You know, are people appointed or elected? Are they going to have premises? Those things that kind of people, when they try and imagine what something's going to be, you try and fill in some of the blanks. And I think at the time Anthony Albanese said, well, it's a bit like building a bridge. You know, you don't necessarily work out all of the lanes and the tolls to begin with. You just make a decision, are you building the bridge? And I said, OK, well, at some point, people are going to want to know, is there a toll? How many lanes are there? Because naturally, when you're building something so big or changing the constitution, people are going to want to know the detail. So it has been a while between drinks, but I sent a note to him yesterday and said, look, I think it's probably time again to come along and have a chat. He said, OK, let's do it. And we had the conversation today. Look, let me just say, I think Anthony Albanese is a thoroughly decent human being. I think his heart is in the right place, but his head's got to get in the right place at the moment. I put it to him today, Sharri, that there's a win-win here for Anthony Albanese, and that is he can get his voice through legislation, and he can also get what we all want, Indigenous recognition in the Constitution, through a referendum. Take the win-win. At the moment, he's got a lose-lose. You have a look at news polls dropped, I think, about 15 points from the start of the year to where it is now, as far as support for the yes case. The essential polls dropped about 18 points. I mean, he's been in politics long enough. You've covered it long enough to know that when you see a trend like that, you understand where it's headed. So why not save it?
Exactly.
For the sake of our Indigenous brothers and sisters, and we want recognition for them in the Constitution, why would you risk that on something like this?
Now, you were asking him very straightforward questions that he should have been able to answer, questions that people want to know. But he accused you of reading from the No pamphlet. And let's just have a look at how that interaction went down.
Yes or no, will The Voice be able to speak directly to the RBA?
Well, I can't talk directly to the RBA board.
So no?
And I'm the Prime Minister. No, Ben.
Okay.
Can I make this point? Because I know where you're reading from. You're reading from the No pamphlet.
I'm not reading. Excuse me, Prime Minister.
Well, that's in the No pamphlet.
Excuse me.
Well, that quote is in the No pamphlet.
Excuse me.
Well, it is.
I am not reading from the No pamphlet. I'm reading from my own questions that I have written. No, I'm on a flow here.
Well, when you finish...
You've just accused me of reading from a pamphlet.
No, I didn't.
So
I said those quotes are from the No pamphlet, which they are.
Is it
Excuse me, Sharri. Excuse me. Isn't it embarrassing when you watch yourself back on TV? I don't know whether you have that. But I don't know. I'll just ask the Sky News viewers. Did Anthony Albanese accuse me of reading from the No pamphlet? Because then a few seconds later he said, oh, no, I didn't. I just said that they were the quotes that were also on the pamphlet. I didn't have the No pamphlet with me in the studio. I did the day before because they just landed during our show. We got the yes one and the no one, and I read through them while I was on air. But no, I sat down last night. I only found out yesterday afternoon he was coming on, so I sat down and thought, this is vitally important. I feel this and the importance of it. And I've spoken to Anthony Albanese both on air and off air about it. I've spoken to him about my fears for a no result. I worry about the day after a no result.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying to him, and I again say to him right now, save it. Anthony Albanese understands he's a political warrior. He's a rugby league fan. He loves his South Sydney Rabbitohs. Take the win. There's a win there.
Exactly.
You can have your voice, you can have recognition, And he even questioned today when I said to him, look, it'll be overwhelming support if you put that simple question.
And he said, will it? So he was even doubtful that even if he just had Indigenous recognition in the Constitution, that would get up. He seemed to question that.
But if this goes down, he's going to have to answer to this decision-making right now about why he hasn't decided to pivot and save it.
Yeah. All right, let's have a look at one of the other pivotal moments from your interview.
What if the Voice says, after dealing with health and education and the justice system, what if 12 months down the track, the Voice says, we want to change the date of Australia Day? What do you say as Prime Minister?
What we say is that we have no plans to change Australia Day.
You'll say no?
We say we have no plans, absolutely. And what's made
But
clear,
you'll say to the Voice no?
Of course we will. If we don't agree with them, of course we will.
I think one of the other really fascinating points you made, and we can have a look at that in a moment, is when you said to him, why not just legislate the Voice body? And if the public don't like it, then, then some future government can take that to an election and vote it out. And this is how democracy works.
And just on that, the Australia Day example, right? Just think about this for a moment. We know along the way, on the path to the referendum, we know that along the way, the Albanese government tried to change what they were attempting to do. We had Mark Dreyfus go into the referendum working group and say, hey guys, and this was reported in the Australian newspaper, and I know through someone who was in the room, he went in and said, look, if we remove the words executive government, it's going to be a greater chance of success. The referendum working group said no. When you say to Anthony Albanese, why don't you do this differently, like removing executive government or breaking up the two issues, he says, no, this is what Indigenous people want. Okay, so just remember that. This is what Indigenous people want. But then if we vote yes, and then they ask for something, he's going to say no. So it's vitally important that we don't say no to them now about the model and the pathway.
Very contradictory.
Towards the referendum. But then once the referendum happens and if it's successful, and then they ask for things like Australia Day, he's going to say no. So hang on. You want us to say yes, so you're then going to say no.
Exactly. And if you
Why
can't
don't
say
you
no,
have the spine and the conviction now to say to Noel Pearson and Megan Davis, listen, I'm going to deliver a voice. I'm going to deliver recognition, just not the way you want it. Why not have that ticker now to these people
let's have
and
a
make
look
this
at
thing win?
What he said when you made that point to him. Let's play that grab.
And you're worried that someone else will change it later on, but that's the way democracy works, that if the people vote someone else in, and if that politician says, the Voice hasn't worked, I'm going to get rid of it, that's the power of democracy and people having their say.
It's such a good point, Ben.
Well, that's the way our system works. So why do you have to bake this into the Constitution so that it's there forever, instead of backing yourself on the idea and saying, you know what, this is going to be such a revolutionary measure and it's going to close the gap, it's going to improve, and we all need to focus on improving the welfare and future of Indigenous Australians. And if it's so successful, it would take a very brave politician to go to an election and say, if elected, if I knock Labor off, I'm going to cancel the Voice. What, you're going to cancel this thing that's been wildly successful? Why don't you back yourself and say, as John Howard used to always say, the Australian people always get it right. They voted for Anthony Albanese and they were right when they voted for him. That was the decision of the people. If the Voice is no good, if it doesn't achieve it, surely a future leader should have the right to say, if I'm elected, I'm going to cancel it because it hasn't worked. And you know what?
That would encourage a lot of people to vote for it because they would know that if it's not going to work, it's not there forever.
This is an opportunity here. We know that they're not going to come back straight away and have another crack.
We're out of time. Ben Fordham, thank you so much for coming on, and thanks for holding our leaders to account.
No worries.